Dear Venerable Sisters, dear Dhamma friends, this is the time for our question and answer session. As a preparation for that, there are written questions, so I will start with that. Meanwhile, if anyone wish to raise questions or any statements, it's welcome on behalf in terms of a discussion. I will continue with what is available in written. Venerable Bhante, can you please explain how 4 foundations of mindfulness help meditation progress? Of course, this the 4 foundations of mindfulness is known as Satipatthana in the Theravada tradition. That is the particular discourse known as most relevant to the meditative life. This is Satipatthana method. There are some other Patipada or methods prescribed by the Buddha, but the 4 foundations of mindfulness is considered the most respected and most widely used, and it starts with contemplation on the body, the materiality. So whenever someone is more and more engaged in understanding one's own experience related with this materiality, that is the foundation for 4 foundation also. And once that is mastered, once gained a certain amount of mindfulness through this Kayanupassana, that is contemplation on the body, then it is naturally leading to the mental part, non-materialistic part, known as the feelings, and then the mental conditions, and the balance on the Dhammanupassana. And so therefore there's a gradual lead, one leading to the other, starting from very gross thing, going to the subtle thing, starting from the known thing, leading to the unknown. Slowly it is leading. But from yet another point of view, specifically towards the last episodes of the Buddha's life, where you find in the Maha Sutta, Buddha again and again mention about the 37 factors of enlightenment, Bodhipakkhya Dhamma, and they are Satipatthana as given as the starting point. The 4 foundation of the mindfulness, and then Iddhipada, Pancha Bala, Pancha Indriya, Satta Bojjhanga, and Arya Attangika Magga. So Satipatthana, 4 foundation of mindfulness, leading to this Iddhipada, and the 4 kinds of exerting, and faculties, 5 faculties, 5 powers, 7 factors of enlightenment, and the Noble Eightfold Path. They are the 4 foundations of mindfulness, work as a foundation, but they are in the 37 factors of enlightenment, or in these 4 foundations of mindfulness, there's a kind of the chain action, starting from the known and going to the deep. And while we are discussing this particular sutta that I have cited as the main topic, we may be dealing this in detail in time to come. How the materiality, once it is been mastered, leading to the mentality. So we may be taking this question again and again during the Dhamma talk. Venerable Bhante, when progress in meditation happens, is happiness that one feels a defilement? Please clarify. So, related to the first question, this is the point where when someone is becoming skillful, when one is mastering the materiality, when the materiality starting from the gross come to the subtle and subtlest, there is a relationship with the feelings, the happiness, the happy feeling and the unhappy feelings, and pleasure, pain, no pleasure kind of feelings. So it is very interesting to see. Of course, that tomorrow in the Dhamma talk we'll be dealing in deep happiness, and the pleasurable and the painful feelings are considered as two extremes, and that is the very first utterance the Buddha made soon after his full enlightenment. And leaving these two extremes, one has to come to no pain, no pleasure kind of feeling, which is not much common in our day-to-day life. And we have no any pragmatic touch to this also, unless otherwise you really specialize on it. And while you are training, while you are familiarizing this no pain, no pleasure, it is not directly going from the pain and pleasure to the no pain, no pleasure. Still there are some association of the pain and pleasure. So when and where the pleasure happens, the practitioner, the yogi, meditator used to entertain it and sometimes claim this pleasure is due to my effort. This pleasure is mine. It is some used to take it as in an egoistic manner. So therefore, even though it is not so dangerous as the worldly pleasure, the pleasure or the happiness feeling coming in the meditation also, I have to consider in such a way not to make a point to create more and more defilements. So therefore this is called as, recognized as upakkilesa, that means a taint or kind of a defilement that is not merely due to the pleasure that is arising, not merely to the happiness arising, but there's an underlying tendency when and where this happiness happen, the one misread it, misunderstand it, and try to take it as me, mine or self. And under such circumstances, this underlying tendencies, undercurrent, is growing. So therefore, one has to consider as defilements and not to go into the pain, not to entertain the pleasure, but taking them as the reference points, take the middle path as much as possible. There is no pain, no pleasure. So therefore, unless otherwise there is a set of instructions, or unless otherwise you go prepared, these places are becoming traps. So that is why one has to listen to the Dhamma, or one has to have a teacher, or one must be theoretically sound, so that you can avoid this kind of thing, and otherwise that can be a trap. Venerable Bhante, please forgive me to do this request. It is possible to change the starting time of the interviews from 4 p.m. onward instead of 6 p.m. Then if you are not so tired, you may be able to join the final sitting, which is at the 8 p.m. or at 8:30. The meditation hall is deserted without you in the final sitting. And when you are available, it is so alive, and we can finish it at 10 p.m. according to the schedule with the Anumodana. So I would suggest, as usual, I will come and sit in the 4 to 5 sitting, and we can start at 5 o'clock interviews. And if I can stop them at about 7:30, 7:30, then 7:30 to 8 I have little time for walking meditation, and I can come and sit at 8 o'clock. Is it okay? So that means you may all get more time also, because 5 to 7:30, 2.5 hours. But anyway, last time we used to do in the 4 to sometimes till 10 o'clock. Yeah, 6 to 10. But this time, I think situation is little ease because at least half of the people, half the yogis are already had some interviews. And we have to give the priority to the newcomers, and then we have to limit it to 2.5 hours. And then I will try to join at 7:30 to 8 sitting, walking, and then 8 o'clock sitting. So Ramani has to keep that in mind and make the list accordingly. So therefore tomorrow we will be soon after the sitting. Maybe usually I am late 10 minutes. I don't know, this clock is telling something, this clock is telling something, the clock at my room is telling something, so yeah. So therefore there may be little differences, but anyway, we'll just fix it at 5 o'clock. Venerable Bhante, when observing Anapanasati, are we to start with in-breath and out-breath, in-breath pause, out-breath pause, or start of in-breath, middle, end, and pause, start of out-breath, middle, end, and pause? Can you please clarify? Thank you. So this is, there is no way we can expect it or we can do it. Only thing is, you must understand the practical meaning of Anapanasati, as I try to explain in the basic instruction as well as in the Dhamma talk. Our mind is always outwardly. So therefore, in order to make it inwardly, we make this temporary benchmark of Anapanasati and refer again and again to the Anapanasati in order to get rid of these outside sounds, bodily pains and thinking. So when and where these pain and the sounds and the thinking less and less, mind will fall calm and quiet on the Anapanasati, whatever it may be. You have to start with what is the prominent. More and more you become familiarized, more and more you become face-to-face with Anapanasati, that is in-breath and out-breath, you must go deep as much as possible. So, can give the sequential order, but it is not a hard and fast rule. You must use the appropriate technology to go more closer and closer with the in-breath and out-breath, that's all. So one at a time we can say, just see the in-breath and out-breath, or we can say, see the in-breath, beginning, the middle and the end, or you can say, see the in-breath, the pause in between and the out-breath. So many facets. So you must try to maximize the mindfulness. Whatever the method, and today will be one method, and tomorrow will be another method. So therefore very difficult to give a universal method. This is how to happen. So you simply must understand, we are using the mindfulness as an object in order to maximize our mindfulness. For example, when we are starting a vehicle, if it is in a flat ground, you start with the first gear and go to the second, third gears. But if the vehicle is in the downslope, you can make use the advantage of this slope, and even you can start with the second gear or third gear, according to the slope. And if it is an uphill, definitely you have to go with the first gear, second gear, third gear. And the amount of weight in the load, in the vehicle. So therefore very difficult to say. Of course in the engineering books it says whether it's a flat or downslope or upslope, you have to start with the first, second and third. That is the technical, but you have to apply the appropriate way in order to maximize mindfulness. The Anapanasati, the in-breath and out-breath, only a tool. Anapanasati is not our final aim. So if you start with the gross you just see through it and see middle and end. If you are starting with the middle, you must not make it gross by force breathing in order to see the sequential order. If you are catching at the very subtle level, equally you must understand how to continue from the point you start. So therefore, the beginners, of course, says just see the discrimination between the in-breath and the out-breath. And more you familiarize, just see the chronological changes from the in-breath to in-breath, out-breath to out-breath. So, using the terminology used in the question, the breath, middle and the end, in-breath, out-breath, the beginning, the middle and the end. But if the second day, third day, fourth day of the retreat, definitely when you are starting, you can't feel the cross breath. You often feel at the beginning only the subtle breath. At that time, don't try to go back and make the breath gross by force breathing in order to see the beginning, the middle and end. You must understand what is the present state, and then from that point onward, what should I do in order to go into the more and more subtle points. So therefore, don't try to make it a hard and fast rule. You have to apply the appropriate technology. But instead, if the person can relate me the experience he or she is experiencing now, I'll be better off. Then I can precisely advise. But very difficult to give this kind of a generalized set of instructions. So therefore, this would have been better if the person can write, this is what I feel and this is what happened as the time passes. That would have been much more pragmatic and easy to tackle rather than this kind of a generalized question. Bhante, walking meditation has been a challenge. Mind wanders a lot. Particularly brisk walking. Can you please clarify the technique? The walking meditation is suggested as an alternative to the sitting meditation. Specifically, when you are sitting, you feel pains, particularly in the knees and the backbone and kind of thing. And after a while, you feel uncomfortable in one particular posture. And as an alternative that you interchange it with the walking meditation. Over there, your attention is with the very gross object, something like the impact of the step on the ground, and therefore more than the breath, it is very subtle. This touching will be easier, but the thing is the eyes are open and the outside sounds happen. So therefore it's a different combination. So therefore, of course it is a challenge. Few days time or few sessions time, you will understand how to make use them in a mutual way. After sitting, you come and meditate, and after sitting meditation, you go and do walking meditation. Then only the two come hand in hand. And if the brisk walking is inviting more and more thoughts, you have to go to a silent place and do with your right start with the slow walking, where if the mind is becoming more concentrated. So by applying only, you have to understand the value of walking meditation, and when you are familiarized in walking meditation, you will get a better chance to observe how to maintain the walking meditation or how to maintain the mindfulness on the touch of the sole or foot while background thoughts are there. This is a kind of adventurous thing. Specifically in the walking path, in the middle, you can see thoughts are there, but still you can feel the touch. Under such circumstances, if you are going to worry about the background thoughts, you will be taken away, you will be taken for a ride by thoughts. But instead, if you are going to put it the other way, even though there are some wandering thoughts, if I can touch, if I can feel the touch of the right leg and the left leg, and putting more focus, be mindful and diligent on this touch, the thoughts will be inert thoughts, or sometimes you call background thoughts, and they are no more chain thoughts. But if you're going to worry, they become the train thoughts or chain thoughts, it will be very heavy. So therefore this majority of people understand this impact of background thoughts more in walking meditation than sitting. So therefore, continue with the same, and of course it is a challenge, and it will give answer to these bodily pains and the sleepiness, and sometimes to the very question, the wandering thoughts. So therefore, continue with the patience, and we can discuss in the interviews as well as in the future question and answer sessions. Venerable Bhante, please instruct us on how we could report our meditation experience for the interviews with you. Of course, when I go to Burma, I had fair amount of meditation experience, but anyway, I have never gone such a systematic retreats. We in the monastery, we don't have the regular kind of interviews. Once in a way we go and talk with the master, and sometimes give a regular sermons, and we do individual practice. But when I go to Burma, exactly like this retreat, we had the set timetables. So when I go there and used to tell what I feel, but there's no communication taking place, then I thought it is because the language. And at the beginning 3 months, I had interviews with the second in charge, and then Upandita Sayadaw came. And interviews are going on, and I have to give through the translator, and translator give back the remarks, and I continue. And there was one Vietnamese monk, he has been fairly senior. One day he came to my room, he told that I know there is no communication between you and the Sayadaw. Therefore you have to, Sayadaw will not come and correct you. Instead, try to report in a way that there may be a communication with the Sayadaw. And of course he took few hours maybe, and showing me a book, and this is what the Sayadaw needs. And luckily few days after, the translator himself compiled a paper and put in front of each and every room, this is what the Sayadaw needs. That is to say, when and where you are familiarizing or becoming face-to-face with the primary object, your report must be start from there. That I am, in Burma we used to do rising and falling of the abdomen, and here we keep that issue open, and you have to tell this is my primary object. And when the primary object become prominent, you have to tell when the in-breath happen, are you noting it or are you confronting it? Not or not. And the third aspect is, if you are confronting, if you are face-to-face with, what did you experience? So therefore you have to tell the object, you have to tell how did you put into practice, and what did you come to know. These are the only three things. And when the out-breath happen, is the mind directly with the in-breath and out-breath, or it is wandering off, or it is distracted. If it is not, if you can note or come to know that I am in the out-breath, what did you experience? So later, like this, the question came, Sayadaw himself gave some explanation. He told, if someone can communicate exactly the way what they are experiencing, he says 50% of meditation is finished. So much it is important, not only you experience, and not only you directly come to know as and when the object happens, you must have the capacity to communicate with another person. Then only your report will be day by day progressing. And Sayadaw himself told, and if you wish to read, you can read in this very life. He used to practice under Shwe-Umin Sayadaw, not the Venerable Mahasi Sayadaw. And the Shwe-Umin Sayadaw 1 week tried to tell Upandita Sayadaw, this is what I need. And he don't get the point. Ultimately, Shwe-Umin Sayadaw has asked, you go and listen to the Mahasi Sayadaw, who is taking interview from the ladies, and wait there. So he takes 1 week's time, he boiled down to the question, what does the Sayadaw request? What does Sayadaw expect out of the teacher, out of the yogi? And he then understood, he wants to know what is the object of meditation, and how did you note it, or how did you came to face with, and what did you come to know. So these three. And then he says his meditation was very straightforward. He can detect, go and report, and ultimately he compiled a paper and given to all the teachers, all the yogis, and that was the contribution of Upandita Sayadaw towards the Mahasi system. He regularized the reporting system or interview system. It is a very small fraction. It's a very simple part of Mahasi system, but it regularized everything. Ultimately, the Mahasi system became very scientific in the sense what to report, and therefore interviews are very, very important in the Mahasi system. More than this, we try to compensate it with this question and answer session also. But if you know how to report easily, you will be easily and quickly, you will be independent of a teacher. You can understand yourself whether you are progressing not only in keeping the object face to face, but how to report. This is straightening the communication, and then only the straightening of the powers, and the power line is going to straightening, and the communication or transmission started, and that is very important. In that sense, for my little understanding, other meditation techniques and the methods, they are not much emphasizing on this aspect, how to report. But specifically under the Pandita Sayadaw is very sharp. He tries his best to make the line straighten. So therefore in the interviews, simply according to the Sayadaw's point of view, short to the point. You have to tell only 3 things. What is the object of meditation? In-breath or out-breath? What did you do to make the object face to face? And what did you come to know? What is your experience? So once that is given, in sitting, you have to give us a little the more information about the walking meditation and in the day-to-day activities. After giving that only you can present any other difficulty or any other extraordinary thing you came to know, kind of thing. Then the interviews will be very straightened. Venerable Bhante, your instructions were basically for a beginner. Can you explain the steps for someone who has well practiced Anapana meditation and successfully entering into the jhana, how to start vipassana from there? Good. But the thing is, if you do not appreciate the beginner's mind, you will definitely complicate in time to come. So whatever the seniority, whatever the experience, daily you must brush ABCD. The beginner's mind is the secret in the meditation. So therefore, listening, I am talking the same, I am giving the same instructions, I also feel sometimes boring. In each retreat, I have to give the cassette. Easily I can play the cassette. But I am also learning day by day. There are some points. These things are making you humble. Develop the beginner's mind as much as possible. So you will never ask how to go into the jhana or vipassana, because meditation will take the lead, or I would say specifically mindfulness will take the lead. If you are sure, day by day your mindfulness becoming very continuous, steadfast, don't worry about the others. Whether you are going to the jhanic path, or you are in the vipassana path, or you are in a interchanging way, nothing to worry. Maximize the steadfastness or continuity of the mindfulness in walking, in sitting and day-to-day activities, more than this jhanic experience or in vipassana jnana. The lasting effect happen in your day-to-day activities. That is what you are going to bring back home. So therefore, if you are successful in sitting, try to bring that success to the walking meditation. Of course, the mindfulness you gain in sitting condition will not be exactly the same with the walking. In the walking, it will be little less concentrated or thinner. And when you go to the day-to-day activities, you are talking about the width. In the sitting, you talk about the depth. So these things has to be, take hand in hand. So therefore, in 1 or 2 days' time, we will be going slowly, together with the beginners, into the feelings and the perception. Over there, we may be touching the deeper parts, along with the mindfulness. Not with the anapana, not with the jhana, not with the vipassana. All these things are quite conventional, but when you are going deep, these conventional things will be very trivial. The mind will take the inner journey, and their own word, these labels and the terminology will be confusive. Instead, mind will learn its own language. And so, for me, the shortest cut is to be mindful. Mindfulness or sati, when it is developing, when it is steadfast, when it is continuous, you are slowly releasing your responsibility, trusting more and more in the mindfulness. So we have to go a little slowly, because the Buddha, as I mentioned in the Parinibbana Sutta, towards his the last lap, he says, Anupubba Kiriya, Anupubba Sikka, Anupubba Patipada. Everything must be gradual, starting from known to unknown. So therefore, whatever the seniority you have to start from the beginning, and you must understand really appropriate way the mental mindset, and from there you carry on. And for that, with not to get much of complications, mindfulness is the one you have to trust upon. Sorry to bother you again, Bhante, regarding today's Dhamma talk. Each breath is composed of small breaths with pauses, or between two breaths have a small pauses. Both are true. From in-breath to out-breath, when you are going through, you passing a gap which you can't experience. It is appear like a black hole. And the mind do not feel it also, because it find even difficult to feel the gross in-breath and the out-breath. So if you have become more and more familiar, whenever mind become familiarized with the each and every in-breath and out-breath, slowly when the mind calms and quiet, you one day experience when the end of the out-breath and the beginning of the in-breath, there is a gap. As far as the experience is concerned, feeling-wise, perception-wise, volition-wise. And when that becomes very familiarized, you will see within one breath, just like this, the wooden floor, though it appears like a single plank, it's a connection of lot of pieces of wood. Once it is finished and given the polish, it appears like a single plank. From here you can sweep up to that point. But when it becomes older, cracks happens. So you understand the dust you start from here, it won't go up to the door because lot of gaps there. So likewise, more and more familiarizing you see within one breath. It is not one action, thousand and little actions are compiled together. It appears like smooth, but more and more the focusing power increases. More and more you see the phenomena immediately. It appears like agglomeration, composition, rather than one single event. So therefore both, they are just hints, but don't try to chase behind it. Tackle when the gross breath is available, make it face-to-face as much as possible, and when and where the time permits, you will see the gross gap between the in-breath and out-breath and the in-breath. When you keep on practicing further, there may be a chance you can see in-breath itself is in-breath itself is composed of 1001 in-breaths. Out-breath itself is composed of 1001 in-breaths. That is the way the mind becomes close to the primary object. That is true in rising and falling, or when you are opening, stretching your hand. The example given is if you are looking at a cartoon film, if it is running at a proper speed, you see the animation, the hand is moved. But if by an accident, if the projector becomes slow down, you can see it happen in stages. And there you see something different. The smooth animation will stop because of the speed. And likewise, when the object and the mind become closer and closer, it is like a cartoon film, but running in a slow speed. And exactly the same, even normal films also. It has a certain amount of RPM for this animation to happen. But if you run it in the slow manner, the things are happening in a completely different way. No more you can entertain the film. Everything will be distorted. Exactly the same thing happen. You claim, I am raising my hand like in the conventional way, or I am taking the in-breath. But you are observing the in-breath as an outsider, and the well-focused and the very diligent, very vigilant, and more you come closer, you see through it. And yet another example given by Upanita Sayadaw is, in dusk or in the evening, when you see a line of ants, it appears like a stick, or it appears like a rope, or it appears like a serpent. It appears like a continuous line. But if you go a little closer, you will see there is no such dead rope or a root or a serpent. It's a little moving dots you can see. But if you still go further, you see ant after ant, it is coming. There is no such a line. It's you feel like a existing, consistent line, but if you go and close, your perspective will be completely different. Exactly the way when the mind becomes mindful and vigilant and diligent, observing it, it kind of expansion kind of thing. And there you see a lot of gaps in between. So therefore, so specifically that is true for the fluorescent light. So therefore under the fluorescent light, if you are going to take a snapshot, you don't see the light. But the sodium light is different. Fluorescent light is happening in such a frequency, it goes and comes so that we see it as a consistent. But what happens is, it is in a frequency. But if you are going to have a snapshot, it says better not to use fluorescent light as a flash. Because there's so much of dark layers in between this consistent light. So the primary aim of the Buddha is to indicate or direct or confront the materiality and be thorough of the natural characteristic of the materiality. Once you become very thorough and face-to-face, you see the whole area, the volume that you are focusing upon cannot be explained by this materiality, huge gap, huge space. That you won't see, because our faculties are not geared to see this, the space. It only can see the materiality, which can reflect the light, which can have the weight, shape, color, all the kind of. So Buddha says, be attentive, study everything possible, and ultimately you will see through the drawing. You see the canvas. When you go to the canvas, it's the hell of a space. So that not only the in-breath, not only the rising and falling, even in walking or in the winking or moving your hand, everywhere we are in such a momentum or acceleration, so that animation happens. But if you are sharp, observe it, it's a compilation of lot of frames, and that is how the film is happening. But the most important thing is the day you see these fractions, you see the agglomeration dissolve, the drama disappears. You can't see the drama no more. There's no tragedy, no comedy. You can see it's a mechanism. So the phenomena become dull. No theme. No tragedy, no comedy. Things are happening. You can see, or in Sri Lanka we have puppet shows. It's very famous. And through the puppet shows we show Vesantar Jatakaya and that story, this story. The day you see the threads, how the puppets are working, you can't entertain. Till that you feel like all the puppets are animated and very nicely, but the one person is talking from the above and it appears like the puppet is talking. That person is pulling the threads, so puppet appear like working. That is how you can entertain it. The moment you know the threads, and moment you discriminate the puppet and the sounds, you feel we are the one really entertaining out of something. Bits and pieces, we make the situation complete and we entertain. The moment the separate parts go to far apart, no more drama. No more Vesantra Jatake or that Jatake. You see, we are paying money and becoming fool. Exactly the same thing in the magics. Yeah. And the most important thing is, unless otherwise a dark gap, unless otherwise the gap, no animation. Animation happen due to this in-between gaps. And that is being filled by the mind according to your likings and disliking. So with the bits of pieces, you make the drama. You make everything complete, and the other person may develop yet another concept out of the same thing. Yet another person will get another perception. So even looking at the same thing, different people have different tastes, different interpretations, because the positive parts are the same, but the negative part is filled by your own likings and disliking, your own personality, your own projections. So when the whole happens, different people see, different interpretation of the different people different. So this is a very exploration into the mechanism, how the mind is working, how these faculties are working. So whoever it may be, when you are cutting through it, exactly the same way it happens. That means the way you have the knot, when you are redoing, undoing, the way is the same. So it's very, very invitive, very explorative. But the thing is, to come up to that level, you have to have a certain amount of mindfulness, you have to have a certain amount of concentration, and then trust upon your own experience, your own mistakes, do again and again in trial and error, then one day you will hit the point. Usually, analytical power of the phenomena preserved and maintained only in vipassana. In the jhanic place, you get absorbed, your inquiring mind, inquisitive nature is benumbed. It is called absorption. So therefore, while you are in a jhanic experience, you can't see through. You are just see the painting. Hardly you can see the canvas, or you can discriminate the canvas at the painting. So therefore, this is also kind of a concentration that is called momentary concentration and khanika samadhi. And under this concentration only you can see the mechanism, how our mind make the things such in a consistent and animated manner. In the jhanic experience you can't, but you can take the jhanic experience in the sense of concentration once you came out of the jhana. Still you have the momentum, still you have the mindfulness. With that you can again, with the concentration, after coming out of the jhana, and if you can see the breath as if someone else, as if a scientific experimentation, there you can use. But as far as you are within the jhana, that inquiring mind, the inquiring nature, or discursive thoughts are not much promoted. Whenever that happens, jhanic experience will be challenged. Venerable Bhante, when I am meditating, trying to still my mind, I get disturbed by some people opening flasks and pouring water. This sound seems to amplify as I hear it very loud and clear. If it up to me to watch my defilements that come to my mind, or is it also a people who make noise inside the whole to be a bit more compassionate and mindful towards fellow yogis? It's a mixture of everything. If I am to comment upon the early part of the statement, this sound seems to be amplified as I hear it very loud and clear. This amplification is maybe simply due to your mindfulness. Because your mind become very sharp, therefore even little irritation become amplified. And even someone is there, even there is no someone to pour water and open the flasks, when the mindfulness becomes very sharp, you feel tingling sensation and you start to feel needles, you start to feel water flowing all over your body. You won't believe it appear like raining. It appear like crawling animals are going there. It appear like sensation. And there also you will see, all the time we have it, but it become amplified and prominent due to your focused mind. So therefore this indicates the little things outside, maybe good or bad, that is separate to you, they become amplified. It's a good sign. That is, the sensitivity increases. But the thing is, let me explain like that. If you are sharp, or if you are giving the priority to the mindfulness, you have enough reasons to be compassionate upon that. But if you are biased to concentration, definitely you will be irritated. Definitely you will be finding this as something negative. So that is why I am always trying to emphasize in this meditation retreat, keep the mindfulness as the forerunner, rather than this conventional way of keeping the concentration as such. I am talking with the precaution, the caution. If the mindfulness is running, definitely concentration will come, because the mindfulness is the proximate factor for the concentration. But this question happens, this kind of question happens, because that you give the concentration. Priority to the concentration, but invariably you have to write. The sound seems to amplify as I hear it, very loud and clear. That is not the sound is loud and clear, your sharpness is increased. So that is a very clear sound, very clear signal, very clear symptom. The mindfulness is there. So if you are sharp enough, maybe it is too much. If you are sharp enough to discriminate the mindfulness and the concentration, it's such a beautiful thing. But very difficult. For the beginners, very difficult to understand this is mindfulness, this is concentration, because they are going almost hand in hand. And it's a kind of, addiction, or kind of a rut. We always appreciate the concentration. Whenever it is disturbed, you make a reason to be disappointed. That simple disappointment, that simple frustration, that simple tension easily could be removed if you can, by keeping the mindfulness in forefront. So that is very well explained in the Satipatthana Sutta. Aranyagato va, rukkamulagato va, sunyagāragato va, nishītuji pallangang, ujjung kāyam panidhaya parimukang sating upattavetta. It says, keep the mindfulness, the sati, parimukang, as the forerunner. When the mindfulness is running, of course, these concentration have to follow. But our mind has kind of addiction to give more emphasis, more prominence to the concentration. Then mind become fault-finding, critical, irritating, pedantic. So then you will be easily disturbed. But from the mindfulness point of view, it's a good sign, because now you are very sharp, you are amplified. So, if possible, try to discriminate. That does not give a license for people to come and pour water inside the house. So these two must be very clear. The many meditation centers, they have marked in the meditation hall, don't bring any water even. Because when they are coming and sitting and doing all so much of unwanted sounds happening. So therefore individually each and every has to respect other's silence. It's another aspect of the same. That the other person, if the person who is writing this, of course little disturbed, but you also must find a reason to be glad under these circumstances also. How to understand the improvement of the mindfulness instead of the concentration. So then only we can have a group sitting, otherwise never. Because we are coming from different cultures, we are coming from different places, even though there's a set of rules are there, some people take it slack. And something similar, when you come and sit, there's a hustling sounds happens. If the person comes late and the other person is slowly gaining the mindfulness, and then that particular person come and do just like a mosquito is coming and running as if when and where the sleepiness comes. So you develop that fault-finding nature and disappointing nature, irritated nature. So therefore we have to respect each other. So last time on the last session also, it was a question, and some people were coughing, sneezing, and this pouring of water and spreading of their cushions. So these are, everyone has to listen to their own sounds. And that is very often we neglect it. And if someone is listening, not necessarily the other person come and pointing, one has to slow down and specifically inside the meditation hall, respecting each other. That has been suggested also. Is it also the people who make noise inside the hall to be a bit more compassionate and mindful towards the fellow yogis? And the person who is writing also must be little compassionate toward the noise maker and be little mindful towards the fellow yogis. So till we come up to the same vibration, it will take few days to get the group feeling. Till that we have to do. But even then, if this happen, don't hesitate. I will try to announce so that it will be, everyone comes to know, rather than pinpointing another person, that it will be distracting his or her mindset. So we'll take it as a general instruction. Venerable Sir, you discussed Sankhara recently. You suggested not creating Sankhara but let things occur. However, in a retreat, there are certain things we have to do, like opening a door, sitting, standing, eating, etc. We have to use volition. Otherwise, these things won't happen. This is a volitional. Volitional formation or intentions. Can you discuss this aspect a little bit more? Of course, this is relating to the first session we had regarding the Sinhalese talks, and of course, same thing we will be discussing and considering when the time to come. Whatever it may be, this is, as far as the mindfulness is concerned, you have to be choicelessly be aware what is happening. Sometimes, due to our body knowledge, we do something. Sometimes it's appropriate to the circumstances, or sometimes not. And when that happens, intention is there. Already you have done it, but you know it. This is I did. And something, it happens rather than you are doing. So discriminate as much as possible. You can't cut off all the volitional activities. Only thing is reduce as much as possible. Slowly, slowly reducing, let the things to happen. And that is why we are agreeing upon one particular timetable and set of rules, so everyone knows what to do and where to go. And when things are happening, of course you may be doing something or something happening to you, try to discriminate as much as reduce the amount of volitional activities as an experiment. Not to cut off altogether at once. So therefore, for example, intentionally we are stopped. We try to stop the sensuous pleasure. Looking the desirable things and listening to desirable sounds and smelling, tasting, touching. But we have to understand the basic needs. So whenever the basic needs happen, there may be some contribution to the volitional activity, your intentional participation, and you must be in a position to understand, not like in the day-to-day activities, that most of the volitional activities are reduced slowly. So it must be a gradual process, and when further you go there, the obsessions, nivaranas, when they happens, for example, the kamachanda, desire, sensuous desire, or hatred, or sleepiness, when they happen, they are not yet come up to the volitional level. You can see the tendencies are coming, so you are better off. But even then, you must take care not to transgress them and to see this has come up to the obsessional level. If the transgression happens, volition is going to give a karmic process and all the kind of things. So you have a better chance. And when you go to the deep layers of underlying tendencies, you have to make use this transgressional kind and obsessional level, same experience, you have to go there. So it is a slowly, it is a clutch release. At the beginning, it's a direct hard clutch, and slowly releasing like. So therefore, it's an art rather than a science. So try to reduce, but don't cut off. You can't cut off that. More and more you reduce, you get more and more committed, less and less committed to the situation, and that give a lot of that release from the tension and the pressure. So if it is happening little by little, don't try to accelerate it, just observe how it is reducing. Venerable Sir, could it be possible you to please explain the different knowledges that one has to go through to gain Maggapala? This is Nama Rupa, cause and effect, arising and passing away. It's a sequence is written, path and non-path, and the rest. Must one go through all these knowledges? Do they happen one after other at one sitting or over a period? Theruvan Saranai, may you be well and happy. So this is also, I am going to give a generalized answer. If the mindfulness is catching, if the mindfulness becomes steadfast, it will unreveal, it will unwinding and lead the path. So therefore, if you know it, of course good, but don't take them as hard and fast, how do you call the regimentation. And whenever these things are going to discuss, our mind become conditioned and try to see them and try to jump and going to experience it. Then ultimately we do not know it is really happened through the maturity of concentration and the mindfulness, or it is just an imagination. If it is an imagination, you assume I am come up to this and that level, and therefore ultimately you lose the connection with the primary object. So therefore, when and where necessary, of course I have to use these terms, and I have to, take them as examples and the epithets, but I have no idea to go one by one in the sequential order, because it is making the situation more formal and conditioning of the mind happen. So I will use it, but not to give the complete picture, because that is why, to save the trouble, I mentioned this is Satipatthana. We try to maximize the sati as it develops. Different people experience different episodes in a prominency. So let that happen rather than streamline and standardizing all the jnanas as explained in the books.
Okay, getting to cause and effects. I was thinking that even a memory, cause and effects, if you see something happen, say one's childhood, something that gave you some joy, happiness, or whatever, and it probably needed, strength of mind, determination to achieve something, and then down the track, years later, suddenly a memory of this childhood thing comes up. Could that be cause and effect? Like the cause was there and it became effective now for a reason, and then immediately became effective. That turned out to be a cause. And then a future effective nature will take place, I guess. So it's like cause and effects going on and on and on. Thinking like that.
Yeah, that is why that whatever the effect, equally can be a cause for the next moment. So therefore, unless otherwise you disclaim it, this is not me, this is not mine, this is not myself, ultimately you get committed into this situation which is happening according to the law of the mind. What happens is you are not stopping at the observer level, you are going to assume. It is happening to the cause and effect. At a time you going to grab hold it. And then onward, you are the one to suffer. instead of taking the observer state, instead of observing from the outsider point of view. So therefore, cause and effect, if you are believing, best thing is to let the natural flow, that is to say the Tao, the natural path to happen, and to withdraw. But the defiled mind never be happy to withdraw and step back and observe. Instead they fork the fingers. The example given is, if you are sitting in a bank and the water is flowing in the river, and you are in a dry land and the water is flowing. Instead of looking at if you can fork your finger, what happens is the water make a turbulent. You get wet. And if you put your leg, it's a bigger turbulence and you get more wet. So vipassana is something, you understand you are in a dry land, it's a flowing. Whether you fork your fingers or not, the flow happens. And if you know less and less interference, you're going to get the natural flow. So cause and effect is not started by we or nothing. It is something happening slowly, for as far as the transgressional kind of defilements or transgressional kind of activities or obsessional kind, or from the underlying tendencies, you slowly withdraw one by one. And when that happens only, you become a neutral observer, you will be becoming a distance observer, but vigilant, diligent. That means you are not slimy with the slimy mind, sloth and over, just dosing. Fully vigilant observe, but never, you try your best to not to get committed, not to volitionally involved it. So it is very difficult, but it has to happen in the gradual way, slowly. That is to say, when you are sitting, maintain your body, sit in such a way so that you can sit longer without volitional involvement regarding the changing of the posture. Under such circumstances, better chances for you to develop mindfulness and the concentration. But in the walking meditation, a limited amount of volitional activities are happening, but huge amount you cut off. But in the day-to-day activities, more and more volitional activities happens. But in order to maximize your solitude, in order to maximize the freedom, you do away with unwanted things. So the application of the volitional activities of walking to the sitting and day-to-day activities is also changing. And more you advance, more and more you progress also, you will learn the art of this withdrawing, and to be vigilant and diligent, observe it, and assume only the neutral observer's position. Venerable Bhante, Kaya Sankara, Vachi Sankara, Mano Sankara, with 1 and 2, as soon as you have done it, are you committed? But with Mano Sankara, as soon as you do it, the next thought process can be, this is not me, not mine, not my soul. Then what would be the effect? As you have not done it in real terms. Please explain. This is of course related, just like the last question, related to the talks given on the last session. That is about the bodily, the formations, verbal formations and the mental formations. Specific meaning in the Kaya Sankara, Vachi Sankara and Mano Sankara, it says as far as the Kaya Sankara, Vachi Sankara means, that is relating to the Kaya Duscharita, Vachi Duscharita, that means physical misdeeds and the verbal misdeeds. When it go up to the misdeed levels, it is relating with the morality or sila. But when it comes to the mental situation, even you develop thoughts, or if it is occurred to you, it has not transgressed yet in terms of the verbal and physical ways, so therefore it has not a big commitment. But even then, by happening it in the again and again, sometimes it may lead you to commit in verbal and physical way. So therefore, when and where, when it arises in the mind, if you can recognize it, this has already arisen in the mind, but not yet committed. There itself, you can nip it at the bud level. This is not me, this is not mine, this is my not soul. So therefore, under such circumstances, the very recognition, very diagnosis of these mental formations are very, very important. What untrained mind find very difficult. So therefore, you have to eliminate the gross defilements like the physical and verbal misdeeds or transgressional kind, and then come up to the obsessional kind, and then also you can go into the very subtle level. So even in this circumcision also, with 2-3 days time, we will be slowly going into these. So we will be dealing it in the Dhamma talks themselves. So we have taken 1 hour and 10 minutes, and by that time the all written questions are finished. So if anyone has any other kind of questions or any topics feel suitable, it's open.
So when Sadhu Pandita describes Vipassana jhana in his program, he's actually referring to Kanika momentary concentration, the various methods. It's not absorption.
So it says functionally they are working like the jhanic experiences in the conventionals, the jhana, but not really absorbed. The mind is, the vigilance is maintained, analytical power is maintained, but mind is one-pointed. It can focus into one particular thing and forget about the others because of the concentration power. And not like in a jhana, it is not absorbed, so it is penetrating power is there, analytical power is there. So therefore, this is the one can lead you towards the penetration. Jhanic experience is not going for the penetrating power. It is just absorbed. In a sense, we can say mind become benumbed and go into a sleep-like thing. Of course, it is not sleep and no defilements, but if you are going to think, if you are going to analyze while in a jhana, that is antagonistic to the jhanic experience. So therefore, mind has to be very tamed and benumbed as far as it is in jhana. But the tactic here is the samatha pubbangama method, the jhana-based method. You go into a jhana and you withdraw, come back, and then use the momentum with the analytical power, then you are better off. You know how to make use it. That is how it in the Yuganatha Bhavana, that is joining together, or jhana experience method. So all are valid methods, but what I am trying to explain, if I got your question, the functional or pragmatic difference between the jhanic experience and the vipassana experience.
Could you explain a little bit the difference between the neutral feelings and neither pain or pleasure and equanimity? Because there's a controversy about neutral feelings. Some people say neutral feelings in itself does not exist. It's only that you don't, your mindfulness is not sharp enough to either pick up the plus or minus. That's why it's called neutral feeling. And yet you also use the term neither pain nor pleasure. So is that a state before the contact?
But last time when we are in the Candlebark, we took the Maha Sutta. In the Maha Sutta, Venerable Kottita is asking a question, what is the adukkama sukha ceto vimukti And what are the conducive, what are the proximate factors for the adukkama sukha cheto vimutti? Adukkama sukha cheto vimutti means the mind liberated through no pain, no pleasure. And what are the proximate causes? And Venerable Sariputta says there are 4 proximate causes. Dukkha domanasang attagama, sukha dukkhanang attagama, sukha dukkhanang pahinang, pubbeva somanasa domanasang attagamaya, adukkama sukhaya vedanaya, chatutta jhanam, sati parisuddhing. These are the 4 conditions it says. One thing is you have to do away with the gross pain and pleasure. And that is means bodily pain and pleasure. And there is a kind of a mental pain and pleasure. Domanasa, somanasa. That also has to be do away with. And then instead now the most prominent thing is the no pain, no pleasure. And that is must be reinforced, galvanized with 4th jhana, but with full of mindfulness and equanimity. That means it is not a mere negative of something, there is something. That no pain, no pleasure, with respect to the feeling, there is a... in the whole picture to explain, you have to introduce the no pain, no pleasure. But that mere no pain, no pleasure is the most common thing in our day-to-day activities, but we are not exposed to it because very subtle. So 4 factors has to become and support it, then only we can make use this no pain, no pleasure to go lead us into very subtle layers. That means you have to understand as far as you are in the bodily pain and pleasure, you miss the bus. As far as you are in the mental pain and the pleasure, you miss the bus. Instead you have to understand whenever the body experiencing the pain and going to the pleasure, it has to go through no pain, no pleasure. Whenever the bodily pleasure, pain, changing into the pleasure, it has to go through this. So when and where the pain and pleasure pendulum goes to the extreme, each time it has to pass no pain, no pleasure, but untrained mind can't trace it. And whenever you make determination, I will not go for the moved by the bodily pain and pleasure, but yet there's a shadow, mental pain and the pain and pleasure. That also, with the help of the bodily one, you have to take the shadow. There also the no pain, no pleasure. That is much subtler. So when that comes, you have to be aware. This is a valid equilibrium state of the mind, even though it is not explainable through the pain and pleasure, mental or physical. But that very thing has to be reinforced with the mindfulness. That means you are aware. It is not something happen in an accident. So gradually come from the gross pressure, gross pain, and you come to the subtle layer, and when it comes to the no pain, no pleasure, you are fully aware, fully vigilant, fully diligent, and you must at least have heard or be prepared, the best is the equanimity. This is the equanimity with respect to the feelings. So therefore equanimity not only respect to the feeling, equanimity with respect to the materiality, perception, volition, everything also you must be little be aware of, be armed with. Then only you can be really make use, or you can entertain this no pain, no pleasure. Yeah. Oh, very easily that the epithet can be explained. If you are observing the pendulum, so you can see the most dramatic point is just go to the end, and it's appear to be as if it is going to stop it, and then suddenly come down. And when you go to the other extremes, it appear like it is going to stop at that level and then fall down. And you observe our mind is see the dramatic point in this extreme and that extreme. But supposing no winding, so now pendulum is go by its own. And then where is the most stable point? Not this or not that. but instead middle. But no one can comprehend when it is running, this is the stable point, this is the most fastly moving place when it's a normal run. Because now there is no winding, there is no power, but when you are going to rest it, ultimately rest it in the most fastly moving place. And so much of patience you must have. And don't do any volitional thing, no winding, no batteries. Now it is going up here. And when it comes to here, the best thing is if you have sit on a swing and no one is to give a push. Now it is calming down, just close your eyes. You can't understand whether you are moving mentally or physically. Because of the momentum, it feels like moving. We don't know it's a pendulum or it is rotating or this way. Unless otherwise you open your eyes, mind becomes bewildered. Exactly the same thing happened in the meditation. Because before meditation, we thought pleasure principle. We think in terms of pleasure principle. We are maximizing the pleasure. More and more you to maximize the pleasure, what happens is you end up with the suffering. So you think it is something wrong with your formula, it is something with this and that. Next project, I will definitely end up with the pleasure. But it was the history throughout the humanity. But the Buddha says, therefore, you never find the peace or lasting one in the extremes. But instead you have to come to the middle, that is not adding these two together and divided by two. It's a completely different experience. But when that happens, the Buddha verily explained, you are bewildered due to the undermining tendency of the ignorance. Because our mind always sees dramatic things. The mind is going for the colorful things or positivity. But when it comes closer, it becomes boring. It becomes monotonous. It becomes losing your boundaries. It becomes unexplainable. So therefore, naturally you reject it as a possible alternative. That is why you have to listen to the Buddha and we have to prepare your mindset. When it happens, at least don't disturb it. Just let it happen slowly, come into the middle. And then some people explain, it is as if you are trying to be aware or awaken into a dream. I mean, when you are in a dream, you have all the extrasensory perception. You can fly, I can, all the kind of thing. But only thing is, you don't know. Imagine if someone can be aware, can be awakened into a dream, exactly the way awakening into the middle, no pain, no pleasure, is, for the rational mind, it is an impossibility. For the successful yogi, is improbability or maybe probability. So this particular sutta exactly talking the point, you must understand that is your prime duty. When and where the no pain, no pleasure happen, that must be my aim. So therefore, slowly you have to familiarize it. Ultimately, you must feel as if this is your second nature. Or you must feel at home when and where the no pain, no pleasure happens. So it is not by book reading, it is not by faith, it is not by the grace of the teacher. You have to have investment of so much of trial and error. And to understand whether I am progressing or not. Instead, if you are going to entertain doubts, nowhere. And whatever you understand, you can pass it to another person. But it is real experience, but the communication problem. You can't communicate because our language is based on these two extremes. When it comes to the middle, you become dumb-bound. You become uncommunicable even to yourself. So that is the sacrification, that is the biggest generosity. Slowly giving up you all the likings and disliking. Slowly giving up you all the personality traits and your intention to get involved and the volitional things. do it in the experimental basis, and when and where it comes, appreciation. And the joke behind it is, whether you like it or not, whether you do meditate or not, most of the time you are in no pain, no pleasure. It's an endowment of human being. But we never appreciate it. We always try to do some kind of agitation, some kind of a pleasure-seeking game. So ultimately, there's no second person disturbing us.
You are outside the range of comparison.
Please.
Outside of the range of comparison.
Yeah, that is called kevala. That means infinitum, absolute. That is the point, the tatata. Tatata means the natural order come into being. The nature going to work in a frictionless path. Even you are observing, you never commit yourself. You never contribute even at the volitional level. Leave aside the physical and verbal level. And there you are going to live. Till that you are trying. You are trying to live. You are acting. You are in a role. But at that moment, everything gone, but you are fully aware. Everything is happening. You find that the best combination, the highest contentment, full satisfaction, it's called inalienable and unalloyed. You never feel going out of that situation, because if such a thing, treasure is there, why should I try and try to mess up this situation? So that is the one the Buddha says, it is nothing he is going to endow you. It is already with you, but your wrong value system and your wrong likings and disliking always pull into this off the balance. That is called deranged. Sabbe putu jana ummataka. You understand? Yeah. So we are masters. We are masters to mess up. We are masters to make the unturbulent flow into the turbulent, and we call this is me, this is my ability, this is my skill, and this is blah blah blah. So the young children, the infants, they have no such volitions, but the Buddha says that is not enlightenment, because he or she do not know. But after you even develop a career, after develop your set of liking and disliking, cutting through the way as the Buddha recommend, you can do away with the volition, do away with the physical and verbal deeds, and you can be awakened into that situation. That is the secret. Now everyone is having experience in the no pain, no pleasure. It appears like very boring, outcasted, cornered, less dramatic and monotonous, and you feel like reading a novel. You feel like turning on to a television or listen to a radio. Or otherwise the colorless. So there is no second culprit, no second person involved. It's a matter of correct perspective, correct vision, and slowly you have to decondition, you have to deconstruct all what we have prepared.
Could one sort of bring to Sister Nurada's question? If you sort of focus on the body, like the centered mind, and then you put pain on one side as it comes and pleasure on one side, it would automatically neutralize.
That the mind means something abnormal. It cannot focus onto a neutral. Mind is a culprit. Mind never be happy when it is focused to the neutral. It becomes so unhappy, just like a fish out of the water. Mind is the most crafty thing. It always makes duality and go to the extremes and see the dramatic fighting. When everything comes middle, it's boring, it is monotonous, and it's something you have to do.
Detach from evil.
You can't do it by intention, because intention itself is wrong.
Desire.
Yeah. Yeah, so and not only you can achieve this point through the feeling, exactly you can achieve through the perception. Explanation. Exactly you can achieve this point theoretically from the volition. Exactly you can achieve this point to the consciousness and the materiality. So therefore Buddha says 5 ways. These are the ways you make complications. These are the exactly ways you get liberated. And different people, if she is going to liberate from, if she is going to hooked up into the samsara through feeling, she has to get liberated through the same feeling. If the other person is get hooked up into the perception, through that only he has to get liberated. So they, both of them come together, they will say, we got different kind of nibbana or different kind of methods. But that is not true. Buddha says, for his omniscient knowledge, there are 5 methods, according to the 5 aggregates.
One thing, one is not aware of the fact that a person is experiencing other things. So therefore there is an accumulation of requirements, the lack of awareness of the fact.
Yeah, that is exactly, we will say we all are human. Instead of our humanity, we consider I am a man, he is a girl, woman, and I am this and that. We are fighting each other, forgetting about the humanity, the superficial, the assumed things. So we will never be humans. Because we just miss the bus, the common ground we are. So exactly the majority of our time we are in no pain, no pleasure. Our mind read it as something lost, something disappointed, something boring, something colorless. So when and where it comes to the no pain, no pleasure, we make it dramatic, we make it colorful, we make it do by this and that, the hobbies and all the kind of thing. More and more we have this kind of, I don't know what is the term, we are rich. If we do not have ways and means to disturb ourselves because we are very poor. They have no means. Yeah. So therefore it's very, very, even in the just mere theoretical level we can entertain this. And when you are doing the deductive knowledge also, but it won't make any difference. They are just superficial. But when you are experiencing under your very nose, with respect to something verifiable, only then you start the journey. Till that you are preparing the grounds.
Is it the same as a neutral feeling?
Yeah. Neutral feeling or equanimity or no pain, no pleasure. Yeah. Yeah. So that is the way that different nuance, different shades of meaning in the communication, it is there. So, different cultures and so Indian understanding and the Western understanding and the Chinese understanding different. Their colors we have put into the words. So no pain, no pleasure is kind of a neutral, but it is not destructive or nihilistic. It's something positive. So, that if you are going to take that nuance, it is wrong to call no pain, no pleasure as neutral. But there are some common grounds too. Basically, in the technicality, it says no pain, no pleasure, rather than neutral feeling. Equanimity is a common term. You can reach it by materiality, feeling, perception, volition and the perception. When everything happens, equanimity. Only when we are talking in terms of feelings, equanimity is known as no pain, no pleasure. Equanimity is the common term for all the 5 aggregates. Anyway, I think the tomorrow's talk will be touching on this feeling side. So today's discussion will be ground preparation, preparing our minds to the tomorrow's talk. And if there is no any other, any questions or kind of thing, we can sum up the day's program. Hoping no other questions. Okay. So we must be happy, even though we have little the questions overall we are successful to have one day, the first day program, and therefore we must be really thankful for all the organizers, seen and unseen, and whatever the merits and the skillfulness we accumulated, we must be generously sharing with all the seen and unseen beings. With that idea, we will be say 3 times sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. In a traditional way, we always share merits with our dear and near ones, relatives, whether they are living or deceased. So we invite them to share with us wherever they may be, focus the attention to our good deeds and merits what we acquired. We share with them. May they appreciate what we do, and they say sadhu, sadhu, and make their life healthy, wealthy and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Equally, may all the skillfulness we have acquired be helpful for us to understand things as they are, and in the comfort ways, may we reach this particular accessible goal in this very life, in this very dispensation of the Gautama the Buddha. So we may all share the merits each other equally with sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. The same thing we do in the traditional way by chanting stanzas. So those who wish, those who knows may chant it. Those who do not know, please listen silently, and with the idea of sharing merits all the beings in the world. Ettavata jangammehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata jangammehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata jangammehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti. Akasattha ca bummatta deva naga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva cirang rakkantu sasanang. Akasattha ca bummatta deva naga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva cirang rakkantu desanang. Akasattha ca bummatta deva naga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva cirang rakkantu mang parang. Idang wo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukhitā hontu ñātiyo. Idang wo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukhitā hontu. Idang wo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukhitā hontu ñātiyo. Imina puñña kammena samāgamo satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiya. Imina puñña kammena māmi bāla samāgamo satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiya. Imina puñña kammena māmi bāla samāgamo satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.